In the final years of King Saul's life, his tragic decline accelerated. Isolated from God and plagued by jealousy and insecurity, Saul's actions became increasingly desperate and erratic. Without the guidance of Samuel, who had died and separated from the Spirit of the Lord, Saul was a man adrift, consumed by fear and anxiety. The sense of God's presence and peace that had once marked his early reign had long since departed. Saul's relationship with God was now marked by silence. Desperate for answers, he sought guidance through traditional means, but heard nothing. The Philistines gathered for a major attack on Israel, and Saul was filled with dread. In his fear, he turned to a forbidden source, seeking a medium at Endor to summon the spirit of Samuel. This act of consulting a medium was both against God's law and a reflection of Saul's spiritual decline. When the medium succeeded in summoning Samuel's spirit, Samuel rebuked Saul, telling him that God had already judged him for his disobedience. Samuel declared that Israel would lose the battle, and Saul and his sons would die the next day. Shaken and weakened, Saul went to the battlefield. As the battle with the Philistines unfolded, Saul's sons, including Jonathan, were killed in combat. Saul himself was critically wounded. Rather than allowing the Philistines to capture and torture him, Saul took his own life by falling on his sword. Israel's first king died, not in triumph, but in despair, and his death marked the end of an era. When news of Saul's death reached Israel, the people mourned for him and his sons, and David, Saul's one-time rival and future king, grieved deeply. Saul's death was tragic, a somber conclusion to a life that had started with such promise. Once filled with potential and humility, Saul allowed pride, jealousy, and fear to consume him. His refusal to fully trust and obey God led him down a path of destruction. Israel's defeat in the battle with the Philistines left the kingdom vulnerable, but the way was now open for David, whom God had chosen to establish a new dynasty. Saul's life serves as a profound reminder of the importance of obedience, humility, and trust in God. His story shows the danger of turning away from God and relying on one's own judgment, especially in moments of fear and uncertainty. Though Saul was chosen by God, he ultimately chose his own path, leading to a tragic end. Applications. Seeking God in times of silence. Saul's desperation for guidance led him to seek answers from forbidden sources. When God seems silent, it's a call to examine our hearts, return to Him in humility, and wait for His timing rather than seeking solutions outside His will. Obedience to God's commands. Saul's disregard for God's laws, especially by consulting a medium, illustrates the consequences of ignoring God's commands. Obedience to God's word is essential, even when it challenges us or seems difficult. The consequences of pride and fear. Saul's pride and fear drove him to actions he once would have condemned. Pride blinds us to our need for God, and fear can lead us into poor decisions. Trusting in God's strength, not our own, helps us avoid these traps. The importance of finishing well. Saul's life reminds us that starting well isn't enough. How we finish matters deeply. A life that remains faithful to God, even in hard times, leaves a legacy of honor rather than regret. God's sovereign will. Despite Saul's efforts to control his own fate, God's purposes ultimately prevailed. This teaches us that God's will cannot be thwarted. Trusting in His sovereignty brings peace, even when life doesn't go as planned.